I went from 1,300 subscribers to 300,000 within, I think it was 7 or 8 days. Everyone says, oh, you got to niche down, you got to have like your 3 content pillars or whatever. That's fucking boring. Pick 10 trending videos that you intend to not just recreate, but do something better.
Inside episode 10 of the All About the Music Industry series, I'm speaking with the legendary Anti.Prophet and unpacking how he left life as a classical violinist, moved to Bali, and grew hundreds of thousands of followers, and how he uses his exact workflow for researching, scripting, filming, editing, and posting his network of content across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. This episode is one of the best, and that's why it's the finale of season 1 of the All About the Helping podcast. We're taking a short break. I'm about to become a dad for the first time and have a baby, so we'll be back in January of 2024 with season 2. I hope you've enjoyed all the episodes so far, but this might just be one of the best. Bro, I'm excited for this. I've been a fan of the Anti.Prophet project for a little over 6 months, just consuming your content. And what stands out to me is your thoughts on leaving the USA, your thoughts on self-expression, and stepping into a new version of yourself that is reflective of who you want to be and not who you are. I know you had a long journey as a violinist for many years. What were some of those triggers that made you decide to step out and chase a life of freedom for yourself?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on here, man. I really appreciate it. So I think the main thing that got me to kind of switch gears in life was actually desperation. My life had just basically completely fallen apart, and I needed to make a change. There wasn't really any... I was in a place where the idea of staying in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is where I'm from, just didn't make sense. There wasn't going to be the right kind of opportunities. I wasn't going to be around the right kind of people in order to kind of make the vision of my life that I had for myself at that point actually happen. So, on top of that, this was in the midst of 2020, losing my marriage, losing a number of very important friendships to me, losing my dad, losing my house, losing my dog. Like it all kind of came crashing down. So I think, the change came as a result of necessity to a certain degree, which I think is something that happens to a lot of people, because this type of change doesn't come in a way that is comfortable, and you have to be properly incentivized to make these changes as a result. And running away from pain is a good incentive.
I think it's fascinating that you said the storytelling from your mishaps and from your most insane moments led you to realize that content was something that you're actually really strong at, not only in the delivery, but also covering a wide range of topics in society that also led into your personal interests of philosophy, from like nihilism, neocolonialism, your stance on various things in life, like gender, like, modern topical things in society. How did you make the bridge between what you were talking about as a violinist, music, your own accomplishments, into your perspective on these different topics?
I think the thing that I realized with social media is it's just like having a conversation between yourself and like a circle of 4 or 5 friends.
Uh-huh.
If you can stand in a circle with people and keep their attention for 30 to 60 seconds while you tell a banger story, which is, I was getting banger stories by living in these different countries. That's something that's very easy to copy and paste and put on social media. The only hurdle from there is really making sure that you have systems of consistency in order to allow you to create content, again, consistently. That's really the main hurdle. If you can capture people's attention in person, translating that over to the screen is very easy to do. So in terms of how I kind of integrated all of these different things into one brand, I mean, that was something that I was a little bit worried about to begin with, because, everyone says, oh, you got to niche down, you got to have like your 3 content pillars or whatever. But again, using the dinner party analogy, if you're sitting in a circle with people and you're there day in, day out with these people, and you only talk about 3 things, like that's fucking boring. You need to have like a varied you have to have a couple of different sources from life, whether it's philosophical, whether it's just anecdotal, funny stories, whether it's general anxieties that you have about your own life. Like, all of this goes into becoming a multidimensional person and being someone who can tell great stories regardless of the setting. And, I don't think that I necessarily had all of these crazy experiences in order to tell stories as a result. But it's certainly not a bad side effect.
I think it definitely encapsulates how artists think they have to promote their own music, or people think they have to niche down to 3 different topics. But I really vibe and resonate with this idea of the dinner party, and you would talk about multiple different topics. It would feel too boring to stick on the same 3 topics. You'd run out of things to bring to the table, literally, or you would feel like this conversation's not really serving me well. I want to kind of shift gears a bit. I want to talk much more on the content side of things. So as a creator, like, you talk about these broad topics, but can you talk us through the kind of workflow? So you would batch, say, 17 to 30 videos in one outfit, in that wonderful chair you're in right now, or in another chair in another room in your home. How do you script, write the first lines, topic, and just think of all the areas you're going to discuss and then chop up into micro content? What is your sort of workflow for that approach?
What I did, and what I would recommend to any new creator, is to start things off by simply recreating trending content. And that's very easy to do. All you need to do is to pick 5 hashtags in the niche that you're going to try on. Type that shit into Instagram, and then pick 10 trending videos under each of those hashtags that you intend to not just recreate, but do something better than the original trending video does. And this could be in the realm of, adding subtitles if the original video did not have subtitles. This could be in terms of production value. Again, this is something that I even did with Anti.Prophet. I invested in a nice camera, nice lighting, nice setup, because production quality is something that's important to me.
Right.
You can lean into kind of figuring out what that first line in your video is going to be. If the trending video that you're working with has, an okay line, but you feel like you can make it spicier, make it spicier. Any of these different areas are places where you can basically go farther than the original video went. And then once you do that and you go to post it on your social media, all you then need to do from there is copy and paste the hashtags that you took from the original video and put them in your video. So really, when I was getting started out, I just did exactly that. I picked like 5 hashtags. I found those 10 trending videos. I recreated those for myself. And I did that honestly for about, how many weeks? Probably 4 or 5 weeks. And at the beginning, I'll be 100% real with you. For the first week and a half, 2 weeks, I literally just said the exact same script from the videos that I was copying. I literally just, I was like, okay, they said this, I'm going to say the exact same thing. But obviously that was not very artistically gratifying, and I felt a little bit slimy doing it. So I was like, okay, this isn't really for me. But what if I took the first line of what they say in these videos, and then I kind of just riff from there and kind of make it my own? So that's what I ended up started doing, I'd say between week 3 to week, probably I'd say 18 or so. And during that time, again, I was kind of on the hunt, always on the hunt for trending videos, things that I wanted to talk about. But because I was putting out so much content, I put out 2 videos a day. I was able to test a lot of content and see what resonated with my audience and see what didn't, and also see what resonated with me. Figuring out what kind of topics I liked talking about. Was I going to be the generic motivational hashtag guy? Probably not. It didn't seem like it was really that good of a fit. Was I going to be someone who talked about myself? As it turned out, that became something that people became more and more interested in. So I incorporated that into my content, and I let the data kind of guide me in terms of what kind of content to continue creating. But I was sort of, finding videos that resonated with me already, that were trending, that I thought I could, again, bring something new to the table with. So the very last thing that I will say about this is my actual scripting process. At the beginning, this really was me just writing down the first line of each video, delivering that first line. And then from there, I wouldn't script anything. I would literally just sit in front of the camera and riff for about like 90 seconds to 2 minutes. That's really how I build Anti.Prophet. It's really within the last like 3 or 4 weeks where I've been sitting down and like legit like scripting out what it is that I'm saying, because I've been getting into pretty delicate waters and kind of complicated waters as well. And I want to make sure that in delivering these ideas, I do it in a nuanced way that's well thought out, so that I'm not just sitting in front of a camera and riffing on things and making myself misunderstood as a result.
Love that. Thank you for that perspective. Honestly, I hear you loud and clear how much research goes into the preparation of your content. Like, you sat down, researched those hashtags, pulled out elements you wanted to emulate that caused the virality, but give your own opinion and perspective on it, which I love. Then I think you have clearly done a lot of thought into getting the production value to a point where you can not need to evolve what it looks like. You began at your finishing line, and then it can only get better from there. I took 4 years to get to this humble but beautiful setup that was an evolution of different bedrooms, different lights, different angles. And I think you have begun from a place of, I've consulted an outside videographer, so I know directionally what's going to look good. And you had your own intuition, I believe, of what looked good. And you kind of began at a really solid starting point. And the last thing was just to say, like, you've navigated these territories really well with creators like Iman Gadji and Andrew Tate talking about such rich, complex topic. I like the fact that you've been intentional about your choice of words to make a logically strong argument rather than just entering into murky waters. I think you've done amazing to get the content aligned to a solid rhetoric.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And in terms of like, hitting the ground running in terms of production value, I mean, the only reason that is because of my background of working for that one client. Is just I went from not really creating that much content ever into managing like 40 pieces of weekly content, one of which was generally like a 20-minute, like fully produced, like beautiful YouTube video that, garners hundreds of thousands of views. Like, it was really like sink or swim. So I think from that, I was just like, okay, well, if this is going to be like my training and background, I might as well just bring that to the table to get started. And on top of that, in terms of consulting an outside videographer and also, my social media manager who posts for me from the States, it's just, I had that back end knowledge of how teams work and the value of having a team, because I think a lot of creators start out thinking that they need to do everything themselves. It's like a matter of honor almost, even when they have the funds to hire things out. And I do think that you need to have a working knowledge of like video editing, of scripting, of like how a camera generally works. But that doesn't mean that you need to do all of it yourself, because I know for me, like, if it was left to me to edit these 14 videos every week and post them, Anti.Prophet would have been done within like 10 days, because I just know myself. I hate editing. I'm an okay editor, but I hate it. And I hate the trivialness of posting a piece of content at 6 a.m. so that it lands in America at like the right time. I knew I wasn't going to do it. So know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and hire out your weaknesses to other people, because trying to make your weaknesses better just makes you mediocre at your weaknesses rather than making you really, really strong at your strengths.
That's clutch. I will borrow that. These two hands do everything. So I do the editing, the filming, the posting, and I have an agency and a full-time 9 to 5. So I hear you when you say hire out your weaknesses, because my thought is, why am I going to pay somebody to do something I can do myself at a very high level? But I am learning it's about buying your time back to focus on other more high level things. Learning that about myself
with higher yield. Yeah, for sure. I mean, just focus your time on things that will grow your business rather than maintain it, for sure.
Yeah. And I think what I really value is about the way that you've shared this is you can do it yourself, and you know that if left in your hands, it would get done. I think relating this back to musicians, the reason people hire out a manager, or they hire a social team, or they try and loop in other stakeholders, is they shift the accountability to the other person. So I don't know what's happening with my song campaign. My social team handle it. And my perspective on that is kind of, why do they as the artist not know what is happening with their brand? The other person's there for a paycheck. They're not there for the end destination. And I feel like the artist needs to say, this is my brand. I want to control the way it grows, but let someone execute my vision rather than passing off the artistic vision. Do you have a perspective on that sort of approach? I know it's not your specialty, but any thoughts there?
Yeah, no, certainly. So this is what I would generally say. When it comes to business, no one gives a fuck about the people around them. They only care about what it is that they're getting out of the business transaction. And I don't mean that pessimistically or, I'm not even saying that negatively. It's just like when you're in a transactional situation, you're there to get what you want to get. And when you're working with a manager or someone who's managing your social media, these people aren't ultimately there to bring your artistic vision into the world. They're there to get paid. And like, in terms of figuring out whether or not they're delivering the appropriate amount of value to you, like that's on you as a business owner, as an artist, to be able to tell them, hey, here are the parameters of what I'm looking for. This is what we're going to accomplish by this period of time. Or I'm going to consider this as something that does not deliver enough value for me, and I'm going to stop paying you. I think a lot of people, as you say, like they look at all these like different elements of like building a music career these days, and it is overwhelming because you have to write your music, you have to know something about promotion, you have to know something about promoting in the physical sphere as well as the digital sphere, you have to know something about sound engineering, you have to know something about like managing teams, even if it's just your band. Like the list goes on and on and on. And I think when people see that, they're like, holy shit, like this is too much. I better just like hire this part out. But in that fear, they end up taking on contracts that completely screw them over. Or they end up working with people who, again, are just there for a paycheck, which everyone ultimately is.
Yep.
It's your job to know what your artistic vision is and to utilize the team around you and to communicate with that team clearly in order to make that vision a reality. No one's going to do that for you.
Facts. I often have heard the phrase, especially from the likes of Kanye West, is that the artist is the CEO of their business. They create the vision and they bring in a manager as like a chief of operations to keep all the plates spinning. But it's ultimately they have to set the direction of where they want things to go. And I hear what you're saying loud and clear about transactional behaviors. Like I myself, probably in the years 5, 6 clients I took on that I maybe didn't believe in them fully, but I was doing it for the paycheck. And the lesson I learned was to never sell my integrity ever, ever, ever again for a paycheck. I'd rather decline the business, decline the retainer partway through and saying we're not aligned in our values rather than take that income. Have you ever experienced those types of things for yourself as you've broken free of the matrix and moved abroad and left that client that you worked for or other clients? Have you taken decisions for yourself and your integrity and not for financial gain?
I just did it a few weeks ago with that major client based in Bali that I was talking about. That was something that was very much along those lines. It got to a place where I just knew the working relationship wasn't going to be correct moving forward. So, I made a series of decisions that got me to where I am now, and I'm feeling a million times better for it.
Love
but
that.
I think speaking to what you were talking about in terms of like having a manager and then having the CEO, right? For this influencer that I worked for, I was his COO for over a 14-person team, and that was my first managerial role. And what you're saying in terms of the CEO being in charge of the vision and the general manager, or excuse me, the COO/general manager being entrusted with executing on that vision is 100% correct. And even right now, for example, I'm producing a rap track that I'm going to be releasing on Anti.Prophet, where I'm doing vocals on it. And this is very new for me. This is I make a video on Anti.Prophet talking about be willing to be cringe in order to be great. And it's the idea that everything that you start off for the first time with is probably going to be cringe, but you got to make it anyway so that you can make the next piece, which will inherently be better. And the thing that I've noticed with this is, again, in my head as a classical musician, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm the one who needs to come up with the harmony. I need to come up with the instrumentation. I need to come up with like what you know, sound samples I'm going to use. I need to figure out like how I'm gonna like do like the mixing for my vocals versus like the orchestral track, all this stuff. I need to write the lyrics. And I got to a place where I was able to sort of reference my experience in social media. And, you know, I wasn't the person creating like every single Instagram story, every single like subtitle that went on every single video. Like I had a team of people and my job was to organize the labor in such a way where we got shit done when it needed to get done. So I looked at this rap project and I thought to myself, okay, I have an idea of what I want. Let me hire out the instrumentation. Let me hire out the mixing. Let me hire out the mastering. Shit I don't have any clue about and ultimately have no interest in talking about or in learning, I should say. And what I can bring to the table are the lyrics as well as the distribution based on my, the size of Anti.Prophet's following. So you just, again, lean into your strengths and hire out your weaknesses. I will believe that till the day I die. And that's a new belief for me as of the last year and a half.
I definitely heard you say, and your brain was ticking towards when you were listing all those tasks within the production about the samples and the things to add. Did you find yourself wanting to take control because that was an old habit you may have done in the past and you had to learn to let go and distribute to others?
Yeah. And I think it's an ego thing, right? Especially for musicians. There's this idea of, again, Kanye West being the person who writes, who, creates all of his beats, who does everything related to the creative process. And like the fact of the matter is it's not how it works. People
don't have to be.
There are 24 hours in a day. And the goal here is to surround yourself with other A players who can show up, bring their level of expertise to the table so that the first time you see whatever they bring, it's already 95% of the way to the finish line. Your job is to take it to that last 5% and make it yours. And then, everyone gets paid as a result. Otherwise, it's just you spinning your wheels, again, in my case, in my mom's basement, getting nothing done.
Loud and clear. Yeah. Thank you for your perspective, man. I think the last thing I wanted to touch on is a new space for you when you went from 0 to 300,000 YouTube subscribers in a little over 2 weeks. And I recognized that you had an archive of content that had previously been uploaded on Instagram that moved across to YouTube. But can you talk us through the systems and the workflow you put in place from first X days to your first 100K, and then soon after that from 100 to 300K? Can you kind of expand upon that for me, please?
Sure. So really all I was doing between TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube is just posting the exact same content on the exact same day right from the beginning. And that was kind of demoralizing on YouTube because for the first 5 months, it took 250 videos for me to go from 300 subscribers to 1,300 subscribers. I really didn't see that much traction over there. And the reason why is because when I first started Anti.Prophet, I had this idea of being like a Renaissance man creator. So on TikTok, I was posting only violin content. On Instagram, I was only doing the stuff that I do now, across all platforms. And then on YouTube, I was doing this really foul, offensive, satirical material, these skits that there's just the foul, beyond foul. Those videos should never see the light of day. And I built 300 followers on YouTube as a result of that. But then what I did is I started posting, the kind of content that I do now, which is very life affirming. It's hey, go out and be the best version of yourself. And that did not resonate with this audience. But I wasn't really focused on YouTube. I was interested enough in the growth that I was getting on Instagram and TikTok. So I was just kind of focused over there. But something happened. The algorithm picked up one of my videos, and this was around video, 270, 280. I got 10 million views on that. I got, I think, around 5 million views on another video, 2 million views on another video. And the thing that I realized is, in a lot of ways, I was very happy that I did not go viral at the beginning of this process on YouTube, because had that happened, they would have only been able to see 1, 4, 14, 21 videos of mine, as opposed to having a catalog of 270 videos that they could binge watch all in one go, which ups my watch time. So I think in terms of, when I could have gone viral on YouTube, which again, as you pointed out, I went from 1,300 subscribers to 300,000 within, I think it was 7 or 8 days or something like that.
Crazy.
It was because I had that catalog of music, or excuse me, not of music. I had that catalog of videos that people could binge once they found me.
That's inspiring, honestly. I have goals to do that for myself, where the content that I create, I believe, serves a value to a consumer, but I'm yet to unlock the binge watching nature that massively and exponentially grows my account. And I think I will take a leaf out of your book having this conversation, my friend, is to look at the people who are doing it well, going viral, recreate / reverse engineer with a nuanced twist. I'm going to give that a go for the month of July and hopefully see some growth upon mine, that I'll have 4 years worth of content, but it was an evolution of growth. It wasn't at a standard that I believe that I hit now. So I've kind of am starting from video 0 in my mind rather than video 270 for myself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, ultimately that's a good place to be. And by leveraging other people's content to figure out what people resonate with you on, like, all you're really doing is you're using other people's content to figure out what problems there are out in the marketplace for you to solve. Because you can't really just figure that out on your own. Like, in order to figure out what problems you need to solve, you have to have someone in front of you telling you what their problems are. And I think for Anti.Prophet, the thing that I realized was that, people, like, the problem to be solved on my end for other people was not, to give them more motivation or to give them that kind of like dopamine boost that they start, their day off at 10 a.m. It was to give them content that at least in some way helps them deal with the ever-growing meaninglessness of living in the West and trying to make sense of all of it so that you have some stable footing under the feet that you have. And, I couldn't have known that without testing out other people's content, leveraging other people's content to figure out what problems people actually wanted me to solve, number one. And number two, figuring out what I could genuinely and authentically solve and enjoy solving for other people as well, and kind of marrying all those things together.
Man, I think that is the perfect place to leave it. That's the perfect conclusion to this conversation. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you greatly. Where can people stay up to date with the Anti.Prophet project and the newsletter that you've recently launched?
Absolutely. So you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Anti.Prophet. That's prophet as in religious prophet rather than capitalism prophet, that sort of thing. But yeah, you can find me on there. You can find my newsletter on there. And this coming week, I'm actually going to be releasing my first long form video on YouTube.